Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Launching things off with the People's Champion, the Brahma Bull. And like The Rock, Downright Sports is the home for all sports fans out there. Welcome everybody to an all-new Downright Sports Radio. Surprise, surprise, surprise. If you're a routine listener, I did say last week I was going to take some time off. Well, that changed. So, Downright Sports is back this week. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Brent Reid, the Notorious Sports Critic. For all sports fans out there, if you've never heard Downright Sports before, the most underground sports talk show on any platform, for where this is a show spoken to the fans by a fan, only the way fans should be spoken to. This week, the sports world the last 2 weeks has been on fire, whether it's the Olympics starting, which I'm boycotting, whether it is the NFL playoffs, NHL All-Star game is getting ready to get going. The baseball talks, college basketball is in full swing of things. This is, the road to March Madness is here. In fact, Duke and North Carolina face each other this week. Let the trash talk you begin against that rivalry. Start talking more college soon. But if you haven't heard, the NFL has flooded the news feed. The NFL is a funny animal. Just when you think, the Super Bowl's not till next week. They got pretty much a week off. The Pro Bowl matters to no one. The news cycle for the NFL is going to be boring. And then, oops, there it is. So, Tom Brady is going to, he announces he's going to retire. We're going to talk about that later in the show. We're going to talk about the Washington football, the team formerly known as the Washington football team, new name. But the biggest news story to come out this weekend was former Miami Dolphins head coach Brain Flores basically publicly coming out saying he has filed a civil suit against the NFL. And basically discrimination and, not hiring or the hiring process of minorities, primarily of black coaches. This is a sensitive topic for so many. It ain't going to be a sensitive topic for me. So if you're squeamish, you don't want to hear it, I suggest you change the station, change the dial, whatever. But for those of you adults in the room, it's time for us to have that uncomfortable conversation. So I'm not going to, if you think you know how I'm going to play this one out, well, you're about to be surprised, all right? For those of you, anybody participating on Facebook or, we appreciate you watching. It is later than we normally come on. So thank you. If you're watching on YouTube or Instagram, subscribe, and become a routine watcher. If you're watching on YouTube, it is a shorter version of the show. So if it seems choppy, it's because I do an hour show and I'm going to put the whole thing on YouTube. So anyway, let's get back to it. Brain Flores has been in the NFL since 2006. All right, let's get to the notes here. We're going to get to the notes. Hands is dry, man. We're going to get to the notes, all right? The NFL has been around for an extremely long time, longer than most of its current viewers have been alive, just quite frankly. The NFL is the engine that drives the bus in all of sports. It's called like I see it. There was a study, and I was going to do a show on this one. Did it? But the NFL did a study. The NFL didn't do a study. A sports magazine did a study. The top 100 most watched sports events and games. 90 of them were NFL. If you can hear my hands, that's how ash they are. 90 of them were the NFL. Now, the NFL drives the wagon because of so many different reasons. Sports betting plays a large part. Tradition plays a large part. Tribalism plays a large part. my team, your team play, and it could be the factor for all sports. But if you want to, you narrow it down, the NFL is the biggest enigma. It's just like the average person can't play it. So it's not like basketball. It's not like baseball, where in baseball a guy like 5'2" could play. In basketball, you can play basketball by yourself. You can play basketball with two people, one people. Basketball is any guy can just shoot a game of basketball. It's not like tennis. It's unique. You have to be athletic. You have to be agile. You have to have grace. It's a lot. For whatever reason, people flock to it. I watch it. I watch it for different reasons, but people flock to it. Brain Flores has been in the league for a very long time, and he started as a scout. He basically worked his way up the channel from scout to coach, special teams as an assistant, which I don't even know why the special teams as an assistant, but he worked his way up the ladder and pretty much went to becoming a head coach with the Miami Dolphins, where he was Miami Dolphins, where he was a head coach for 3 years. And his first year, he has his record is 24-25, just a little below 500. He went 5-11, 10-6, 9-8. His last 2 seasons are winning seasons, where this year might have been his most impressive, where he went from 1-8 to finish at 9-8. Just went on an 8-game winning streak, so 9-game winning streak, and just missed making the playoffs. He's been in the league long enough to kind of see how the NFL reacts, or its treatment of the black individual, black person, however you want to say it. 85, if not more, 85% of the NFL's workforce is black. You call it like you see it. It's top players, it's key players, wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, you name it, defensive players, special teams players. They're primarily black. But when it comes to who gets to pick or coach or monitor, mentor these guys from a head coach, now there are plenty black assistants, there are plenty black assistant coaches, there are plenty black assistants, specialists, whatever. But from an executive, from a GM to a head coach, it's no representation. Now, why is that the case? Well, there are a lot of factors in play. We all don't know the factors. We were not privy to that. There have been conversations where some guys are more qualified. Not quite sure how that's the case when you have cases like Joe Judge, who was the coach of the Giants, and I'm not quite sure he could coach a kid's little league team. But what sparked this was Brian Flores being fired, out of the blue, and basically he got a text from his old head coach and Bill Belichick. It was like, "Yo, congrats! I heard you got the job with the Giants," and it was like, "Oops, that's not you." Wrong, Brian. My bad. The teams. I think I still got the picture. I think I deleted it. But Giants, Bears, Minnesota. I'm missing a team. No, Giants, Bears, Minnesota, and one up Denver. All hired new head coaches. 0 were black. Now I'm gonna go on the record. I'm gonna be clear here. You do not. I repeat. You shouldn't get hired just because you're black or white or whatever. Like, you should be hired because you're the most qualified. But after a while, your track record starts to speak for itself. So if it's if it goes white guy, 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 black guy, black guy, white 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 guy, half, white guy, 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 half. After a while, you start to kind of put 2 and 2 together. Now, either, let's just play devil's advocate. let's say, for example, a lot of these owners is like, I'm gonna hire that guy because you and me, we got so much in common. You like to play golf. I like to play golf. You do something I like. I do. You wear you found dead. I wear. I think that guy. This is true. This is a fact. That happens in America. People are going to hire people they feel more comfortable around, or they feel like they can relate to better. That's just human nature. Just call it like I see it. It's just human nature is what they're going to be more comfortable with. Is that a problem? Maybe. Because are we missing opportunities? You miss it, like for me as a black person, am I missing opportunities if I don't hire people that think differently or act differently or look differently from me? I'm just saying, if I were to hire people for Downright Sports and all of a sudden all the people I just started hiring were black. Now, there's a lot of factors. If I'm hiring them just because they're black, that's wrong. If I'm hiring them based on their qualifications, well, then that's one thing. Now, is it my job to throw out a wide net to find that one qualified white candidate just so I can fill a quota? That's tricky. That's tricky. It really is. But let's say to this. Say the majority of my audience is white. And everybody I have hired is black. Everybody I'm hiring is black. How can I speak to that different audience? Now, granted, if all my audience is white, they like me for who I am. But how do I speak to that audience? How do I identify to that audience if I have nobody in the room that can speak to that? Brings me back to the NFL. So the majority of the 53-man roster is going to be black. Sorry to break that to you guys. It's either going to be black or more likely it's going to be black. From especially your skilled position players, cornerbacks, safeties, wide receivers. They're black. And we're telling them that you're good enough, or I'm not telling them, let me back up. NFL owners are telling them, you're good enough to play on my team, you're good enough for me to play, but I'll be damned, I'm going to find any one of you that can be hired, that should lead my team. Now, there has been a collective of black coaches. Now, black head coaches. Now, if they get a long leash, that depends on how much they win. But that's not always true. So you got guys like Tony Dungy, champion, over 130-something wins. Tony Dungy turned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers around. He's credited for that one championship that they won under John Gruden. He's credited for putting that team together. Goes to the Colts, spends a couple years. They win a championship. He retires. Boom. If Tony Dungy wanted to, 2 years after retirement, Tony Dungy could have got the team anywhere he wanted. He just chose to retire. Good for that man. Mike Tomlin, still with the Steelers. 15 years in running. Championships. Never had a losing season. 154 wins, 85 losses. The guy's a winner, but he's also playing for an organization who created the rule where you have to interview at least one black candidate, known as the Rooney Rule. So I think it'd be a little bit weird if they just had to know, like, this brother who can't win just gotta go. Moneypenny. Moneypenny either agreed or didn't. My co-host scared herself. The heck? Downright Sports. You never know what you're going to hear on this show. All right. Jim Caldwell. Now, Jim Caldwell's an interesting figure. Jim Caldwell he replaced Tony Dungy on the Colts, went to a Super Bowl and lost. 62-50, not crazy record, but a pretty decent record. While in Detroit, 11-5, 7-9, 9-7, 9-7. For Detroit, that ain't bad. He was fired. And the guy who replaced him, I think, only served 2 years there. That guy was white. Was that racist for firing him? No, he just sucked. Okay? You had Herm Edwards with the Jets. He was, he was 39-41 with the Jets. With the Chiefs, he was done. He was like 15 and 33. We're going to get to this in a second. This segment, I'm going to have to cancel my second segment, or I'm going to combine the two. Where was it? Oh, yeah. Herm Edwards, who I thought was okay. Then you got Hugh Jackson, which we're going to circle back, who threw his name into the conversation. And I'm not going to bury him, but 11 and 44, Hugh, I think you may want to step away from that one, because numbers do speak for themselves in some cases. But in Mr. Brian Flores' case, who, in the case of the Miami Dolphins, in 3 seasons, I would give him a success. Now, we're not going to go all in detail. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this. So buckle up, kids, because it's time for me to tell you what I think. There's no secret how the NFL has reacted in these situations. More than likely, you probably will win your civil suit, but the NFL has continued to do what it wants, how it wants, and when it wants. Players still get concussed. They got different kind of protocols, but the NFL basically is like, yeah, well, who cares? The NFL, Colin, it all comes back to Colin. Colin takes a knee for social injustice, not because the NFL sucks, not because the military is evil, none of that stuff. He's just like, yo, black people shouldn't get gunned down by nobody. Let me be clear. Nobody should just get gunned down by the cops in the street like a dog. I'm going to take a knee to, why, Colin, are you taking this knee? I'm glad you asked. Here's why I'm taking this knee. Because a couple idiots didn't listen to anything he said and created their own crazy. Colin Kaepernick has never been seen in the NFL again. Ever. Period. Yet, the league has campaigns on their helmets, on the field, and elsewhere, where they're like, no more racism. We're going to end racism. We, the NFL, are ending racism. Nobody else can. We can, because we're the NFL, and we're the same league that charged the military to do flyovers. We're the same league that the reason why you don't see them doing pink themed things anymore is because it was kind of getting exposed that all that money they were raising for breast cancer wasn't going where it was supposed to be going. So this over patriotic league that charges the military to do flyovers is, they just stand for everything. They really gonna stand for justice. Come on, stop. Other players have taken knees, other players continue to play. Colin was a sacrificial lamb. We will not tolerate insubordination. We're just not going to tolerate. Jerry Jones, who had a black quarterback and cut him, I think took him to the playoffs and was like the guys on drugs or some crazy stuff like that. Jerry Jones, who has yet to hire a African-American head coach, was like, yeah, none of my players are going to take a knee. They bets not, or we're going to cut you. Ooh. So here's where things get dicey. Mr. Flores has known this has been the culture in the world of the NFL. Is it right? It is not. Him taking the stand to change these things, that's bold. I commend him. It's hard. Would I have done it? Probably not. I don't know if I could have taken that stand. I would have just, whatever. I would have taken my L and went on. But somebody has to make a stand. Somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb. In 1969, Kirk Floyd formerly of the St. Louis Cardinals, took said stand. Kirk Floyd was traded to Philadelphia, and where he didn't want to go, and was like, yeah, I don't think it's fair. Like, we can't sign any kind of free agent contract. We don't get to choose. We just sign a deal with the team we own. We stay there until the team don't want us anymore. I ain't going for that. Takes a stand. Basically was like, if it wasn't for Kirk Floyd, it is no free agency. Maybe, but not as soon as it came. Changed everything. Created a market, created supply and demand. Teams now big. This is why guys get money that changes the landscape of their life because of Kirk Floyd. Maybe Brian Flores is the Kirk Floyd of the 21st century. But, black people, I'm going to put the mirror to you. If you get pissed about it, you get pissed about it. In our country, here in America, the land of the free, home of the brave, and definitely of the crazy, There are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 that I decided to write on here. 5 black or African American billionaires with a B. A B. I'm not saying go start an all-black league. I think that you shouldn't do anything all something. It creates the issues we have. Like, no, the all race league is just, no, you can't do that. But there are a couple new football leagues that sprouted up. And I don't understand why guys like Jay-Z, who's a sports fan, Tyler Perry, and Robert Smith put some money together, join the XFL, create a league, give it out to some of these players, give them a place to go, because eventually, like Deion Sanders is doing in college football, if you start to change things a little bit, if all your best talented players start going different places because of a cause, because of a reason, then now all of a sudden you do create change. Because now the workforce that the NFL has been relying on has another place to go, a second alternative. This, kids, is how the NFL and the AFL came to be, and how one league was formed, because the NFL did not want to keep losing talents like Joe Namath to the league that was secondary. To use wrestling terms, in wrestling, there's a WWE, and that is AEW. AEW is the alternative to the WWE. If you're tired of being told what to do, you can leave and come here, and we'll give you the freedom. That is yet to be determined, but that's their argument. The first person that comes up with this idea will be the person that creates the change. Flores is the beginning. If I'm The Rock in the XFL right now, I'm on the phone with this guy and I'm like, come here. Come here, come work here. Let's start the change. Let's have the first woman block. Let's have the first this dot. Let's. As you can tell, the NFL doesn't like to change. They don't like to explore. The NFL you can go in the end zone and do a cartwheel. But if I tackle you and I stand and beat my chest, that's considered taunting. That is a dumb-ass rule, but that's just what the league does. The league dictates and tells you what they want them to do. They're not going to change here. He'll probably win this case. They'll interview a few more people. But you're not going to tell 32 very rich white dudes that are well into their 60s, some in their 70s, a couple probably near death, hey, you need to change what you think right now. That ain't happening. I can promise you that one. That ain't going to happen. And the way definitely not, and you're going to now intimidate them into doing something, that ain't going to happen. There are 3 black general managers in football, 0 black owners. You're asking for something that is almost going to be the impossible. Now, yes, Branch Ritchie is the one who signed Jackie Robinson in 1947. Branch Ritchie and the other owners saw the value in the black player and was like, you sign them all. That was the change. It took what? Who's the guy in the end? The Rooneys are trying to be the one. The Rooneys have tried. Teams have hired black guys, but sometimes are they hiring them just to shut everybody up? Because in the case of Brain Flores, he was told, if he loses, I give you 100 stacks for every game you lose, so we purposely going to take. Apparently, Hugh Jackson was told that 44 times in his career. He should be a very rich man. But if this was true, and this was the case, the time to speak up was before you got fired. If this is true, and which it probably is, but why not speak up then when they came to you with that offer? Why not go, hold on, this ain't cool. Also, fun fact, for now, the coaches that are so up, for everybody that's up in arms, who took the stand or who took the sacrifice when Colin took the sacrifice? Because it's very convenient when all of a sudden it becomes on you now. Now, I'm good. Brian, you do you. And I hope the best. But when Colin Kaepernick was drummed out the league, everybody should have stopped what they were doing right there and was like, yeah, we can't stand for this. And yes, you may have taken an L, but with true with true change comes true sacrifice. I'm gonna end it on that. So I wish Brian Flores the best. I hope for the change. I hope listen, I'll give you a story here and I'll wrap this up. All right. I coached basketball, baseball, and tennis actually at a school called Fuqua School in Farmville, Virginia. Fuqua was originally known as Prince Edward Academy. The school kind of has a history and basically no black people. I didn't get any backlash. I didn't hear anything. The people who gave me the most crap were my own for working there. At one point, the basketball staff had the bench was all black except for two guys, Coach Lou and Coach Jimmy Frame. The head coach was black, assistant coaches, scouting, everybody. At one point in time, there were 5 black guys on the court for Fuqua, and the guy that came off the bench was black. Nobody better than I. Fans cheered. The crowd cheered. Other schools might have been uncomfortable, but where we were, we weren't. We got an opportunity. We took it. We did what we could with it. Every obstacle is not always racial, but a lot of times when there's smoke, there's fire. And in the case of Brian Flores, there is a lot of smoke. So you say what you take it how you want it, but something's got to kind of give. Now, it just has to. Something's got to give. Something's got to change, at least make it look good. You had 9 openings, 4 of them got filled real quick, all white dudes, and it's like, oh yeah, it can't, again, I don't want to tell people how you're supposed to hire. You shouldn't just hire a guy just because he's black. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, there are a lot more qualified guys in that coaching carousel. The offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs has been waiting for a job for 2 years. Maybe he don't want it, but I find it hard. You can't find an offer. You're going to go pull Jim Harbaugh out of Michigan. Like, you got nothing? Nothing? Dion ain't got a phone call yet? Like, come on. Maybe he did. He just turned it down. So